We are going to round out this introductory set of lectures with a brief discussion of decimals. So we look at what decimals are, how we round them off, how we add, subtract, multiply, and divide them. So a decimal is just another way of writing a fraction whose denominator is a power of 10. So if you want to write 1/10, it's 0.1, 100, 0.01, 1000, 0.001, and so on. So remember that we work with a place value system here. So for example, a 1 placed here is a 10th, a 1 placed here is a 100th, a 6 placed here is 6 thousandths, and this of course is, if a 6 were placed here, it would be 6 ones, 6 tens, 6 hundreds. So again, this should be very familiar to you. So how do we round off decimals? So to round off a decimal to some required place, look at the digit 1 placed to the right. So for example, if you're given 18.379 and asked to round off to the nearest hundredth, well, that's this place. So the question is simple. I'm going to remain with just 2 decimal places here after the decimal point. The question then becomes, should this remain a 7 or should it become an 8? It never goes down. It's always, does it remain the same or go up? So what we need to do is look at the digit 1 place to the right and ask ourselves if it's greater than or equal to 5. So we should check if it's greater than or equal to 5. So if this number here is 5 or more, then this is increased to 8. If it's less than 5, then this remains at 7. So you can see here then that to the nearest hundredth, that this 7 here then has to become an 8. And so it becomes 18.38. To the nearest thousandth, that's this place here, right? And so this is greater than 5, so this becomes, well, a 0 because it's 9 plus 1, 10, and of course then the 1 carries over here, so this becomes 0, 0, and then the 1 carries over here again, so that becomes 4. So be careful, right? This becomes 2.400. And of course, if the number that we look at is less than 5, then the last digit is simply left alone, right? So for example, if we want to round this off to the nearest hundredth, again 7 is in hundredth, 7 is in the hundredths place, and so then we look at this 4, and this 4 obviously is less than 5, so then this remains as 7, so it's 32.87. Adding or subtracting decimals, this should be straightforward for you guys. You just line up the decimals and add, and so everybody just falls in place. So notice here, you don't have to place a 0 here literally, but you should be aware that there is a 0 there. It's 0 units, and so 8 plus 0 is 8, 5 plus 3 is 8, and so on. Likewise here, this is 20. Just line up the decimal places and be aware then that this is really 20.00, and then you subtract, right? And so to subtract, guys. I'm not going to go into this, right? So this becomes 1, and then this becomes 10, then this becomes 9, then this becomes 10, and then it becomes this comes to 10 over here. So 10 minus 5 is 5, and then remember there's a 9 here. 9 minus 6 is 3. There's a 9 here. 9 minus 4 is 5. So when you're multiplying them up, you have to remember if they're positive or negative, right? But for right now, we're just looking at the absolute values. And what you can do is just simply ignore, at least temporarily, the decimal places. So you can ignore the decimal point temporarily, right? So just go 9 times 5, put down the 5, carry the 4, 9 sevens. 9 sevens is 63, and 4 67. Wow, for a moment there, my brain froze. Anyway, so 9 fives is 45, 9 sevens is 63, and 4 67, 9 0 0 and 6 6, 9 4 is 36. And then we do the same thing here. 3 5s 15, 3 7s 21, and 1 22, 3 0 0 and 2 2, and so on. So this is just a little refresher, right? For the most part, you'll be using your calculators, but you should know how to do this, right? And then of course when you finish, you add up, you look at all the decimal places and see how many you have, and you have 4 decimal places, so this answer needs to have 4 decimal places also. Alright, and dividing, what you simply do is you move this decimal point to the right as many places as you need to just get rid of the decimal place. And so then this becomes 6, and this becomes 25625. There's something you should be aware of, right? This isn't magic, right? I know this is not like magic like when you're in primary school, but just be aware of what's going on here. If I have 25.65 divided by 0.06, notice if I multiply this by 100 divided by 100, that's multiplying it by 1, and so this has to be the same thing, right? These have to be equal, right? And so what we're doing then is dividing 2565 divided by 6, and then we just remember where the decimal place is now, and then we work, right? So it's 4 times 6 24, then we subtract. And so I'm not going to go in too deeply into how you divide. I mean, you should know this from primary school, right? So this is just a little review. Make sure you know to do this. Again, for the most part, when you need to divide things, you'll be using your calculator or software, right? But you should be aware of this, right? This will come back to haunt you if you don't know this, when you have to like divide polynomials and stuff like that, right? Converting between decimals, fractions, and percent. So let's take a look at this number, 0.35. 0.35 is really just what, 35 over 100, and then we simplify it, 7 over 20, right? So remember, a decimal is just another way of writing a fraction whose denominator is a multiple of 10, right? And of course 3/4. Then if you want to write that as a decimal, we just 3 divided by 4, that's 0.75. So we just carry out that division to be able to take it from a fraction to a decimal place. Notice sometimes when you move from a fraction to a decimal place, it won't give you a number that terminates. For example, if you divide 1 by 3, 1/3 will give you 0.33. If you have 1 over 3 and you want to convert that to a decimal, it becomes 0.33, and it never ends, right? Alright, so percentages are pretty much the same thing. 5% is just 5 over 100. And if you want to say 3/4 as a percent, then you can convert it to a decimal, and then from there convert it to a percent by multiplying it by 100, or you can convert it to a decimal fairly directly by simply making the denominator 100, right? So for example, I could have 3 over 4, and then I multiply it by whatever I need to make this 100, right? So that's 25. Notice I'm multiplying by 1, so this is a very commonly recurring theme, right? And so then this becomes what? 75 over 100. So that should have been easy to understand. So to compare a fraction and a decimal, for one of them, find the equivalent fraction or decimal. In other words, both need to be in decimal form or in fractional form. So if I want to compare, let's say 3/5 with 0.61, and that's a question mark, right? Is it bigger or small? Well, I can either convert this to a fraction or convert this to a decimal. This is probably going to be easier, right? So if I go 3 divided by 5, that's 0.6. And obviously 0.6 then is slightly less than 0.61. Okay, so that's it then. So make sure you can do these things, right? I'm really not going to go into too much detail on how you divide. This is stuff you learned from primary school or multiply. I'm just giving you a few little reminders here. Alright, good. So that's it for this video. Hasta luego.